Michael Bivens put our community on edge.
Right now on KGW, a former Portland journalist has been sentenced after vandalizing several places of worship and Black-owned businesses. How long he'll spend behind bars. Plus, the Chelan County Sheriff's Office believes it has found the body of Travis Decker, the man accused of killing his 3 young daughters near Leavenworth. What we're learning from officials this morning. Then,
you know, the great frustration is Congress can fix this.
Left out of crucial funding and programs, the Chinook Nation says it's time for federal recognition, what the status would mean for housing, language, and opportunity. And later.
And they're really intelligent. They have an excellent sense of smell. They pretty much navigate with their nose.
And you've heard about bomb-sniffing dogs. Well, how about bomb-sniffing rats? How the Oregon Zoo is working with rats who can detect things from landmines to tuberculosis. The 6 o'clock hour of sunrise starts right now. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on your Friday. I'm China Green. And I'm Corey Johnson in for Drew Carney today. Chris McGinnis is standing by for a look at your weather and traffic.
Check this out behind me. This sunrise is getting prettier and prettier by the minute. We are about 50 minutes away from sunrise. You look off in the eastern sky, the silhouette there of Mount Hood. That is Venus and the moon. And yeah, there's some flights coming into PDX as well. All right, we are clear and 56 last check over downtown. Elsewhere across the region, 46 in Battleground. That's one of the cooler spots on the map. Hillsborough has also dropped down to 47 at last report. And Almsville, Salem, Albany in the low to mid 50s at last check, 53 in our state capital. All right, the plan for today, Friday, it looks great. Mostly sunny, a little bit warmer than yesterday. PDX hit 78 yesterday. I've got us topping out at 83. So whatever you hit yesterday, tack on about 3 to 5 degrees. And I think that's what we're looking at today with full sunshine. The weekend still has a little shot of rain in it. We'll look at that coming up in just a few minutes. But first, let's look at your morning drive, which is off to a fine start. Interstate 84, that's the Banfield, the taillights in that shot. Moving from right to left, that's your eastbound commute. That looks good. A quick check over the Sylvan Hill. We're zipping right along there as well on Highway 26. And the drive-in from Wilsonville, just 16 minutes. A speed limit clip on those inbound drives right now, ladies.
Thank you, Chris. Authorities believe that they have found the body of Travis Decker, the Washington man accused of killing his 3 young daughters. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office says human remains were found in a remote wooded area south of Leavenworth. That's where the search for Decker has been centered for months. Decker was charged with 3 counts of murder for kidnapping and the deaths of his daughters Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. He'd been on the run since June after he failed to return the girls to their mother following a scheduled visitation. Their bodies were later found near Decker's abandoned truck about 17 miles west of Leavenworth. The coroner will now have to officially identify the remains. A former Portland journalist convicted of going on a vandalism and hate crime spree has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. Earlier this summer, a jury found Michael Bivens guilty of 11 charges, finding he'd committed these crimes due to his perception of race and religion of members of local places of worship and Black-owned businesses. Amma McCarty has a story.
More than 3 years ago,
I believe it was over here, if I remember correctly.
Staff at Congregation Beth Israel informed Rabbi Michael Z. Kahana of the anti-Semitic graffiti spray painted on the Northwest Portland synagogue.
Just the day after Holocaust Remembrance Day, that it felt like this was no accident.
The very next day, a stone was thrown through one of the windows into the temple library.
It felt a very intentional statement of don't feel safe.
Investigators linked these crimes to others, to more vandalism at another synagogue, to a fire started at the Muslim Community Center of Portland, and to a broken window at a Black-owned business.
It was a strong sense of hatred and rejection.
Soon after, in May of 2022, Portland police arrested this man, Michael Bivens.
Rabbi Kahana?
Rabbi Kahana shared a statement at Bivens' sentencing Thursday afternoon.
Michael Bivens put our community on edge.
Andy Green spoke on behalf of the Muslim Community Center.
Yeah, I feel horrible for you. I really wish there was more that I could do for you.
Save your pity for the weak.
Stop.
Save your pity for the weak.
Stop.
And Bivens expressed only this when given a chance to speak.
From the autobiography of President Richard Nixon, page 872. it was Robert Kennedy who authorized the first wiretaps on Martin Luther King.
The judge ultimately sentencing Bivens to 5 years in prison and 5 years probation after a jury found him guilty of arson, criminal mischief, and bias crime in July.
This should be a very clear message that this office takes hate crimes such as this very serious.
That anxiety doesn't go away because one person is incarcerated. It is a reminder to us that there are people who hate us and who are willing to act on that hate.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley has introduced a resolution calling for the U.S. to recognize a Palestinian state. The resolution also advocates for Hamas to release hostages and lay down its weapons and urges Israel to end the war in Gaza. Merkley said recognizing a Palestinian state is, quote, the right thing to do, adding it's also necessary for peace. Washington Senator Maria Cantwell is calling on the Supreme Court to halt President Donald Trump's tariffs. At a news conference, she claimed the president's tariffs will force small businesses to lose jobs and money, adding that only Congress has the power to implement tariffs, not the president.
So we need the Supreme Court to also weigh in and think about the livelihoods of these businesses that are before us today, the impact on America's economy. They can't absorb this tax. You can't run a business with this level of disruption or uncertainty.
Now, last week, the Supreme Court announced it would hear arguments on whether President Trump's tariffs are constitutional. For decades, Chinook Nation near Astoria has asked the federal government for one thing: federal recognition, which they say leads to federal grants and opportunity for tribal members. And now they're trying to get some help from key lawmakers. So Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz joins us from the newsroom. Thomas, with the latest here.
Well, China leaders from Chinook Nation tell me that for years, really decades, they've been left out of these opportunities that are granted to federally recognized tribes. And these can be very impactful. This could lead to bigger economic boosts for the tribes, expanded energy capabilities, and even preservation of native languages. There are also housing programs to help tribal members who are homeless or have substandard living conditions. But that help is only available to federally recognized tribes. Chinook is not one of them. At one point, it was federally recognized. Back in 2001, the Clinton administration actually granted Chinook federal recognition, though a year later, it was rescinded during the Bush administration. The federal government concluded at the time Chinook did not meet all the criteria to be recognized as a tribe.
And what we're asking is that all of our delegation members in Washington and Oregon come together, introduce the bill for Chinook recognition, and champion it through to completion.
And look, this is something that Chinook Nation and Tony Johnson there have been asking for once again for decades. And we reached out to delegates in Oregon. We did hear back from Senator Ron Wyden's office, who says that Wyden is committed to finding a bill that can find vast support in Washington for Chinook Nation. Guys.
All right, thanks, Thomas. We'll take a look at this new art exhibit at Portland State titled Storywork. It celebrates contemporary Native American art and features the work of acclaimed Portland-based artist Marie Watt. The pieces include prints, textiles, and sculptures. And we heard from Watt of the Seneca Nation, who says a lot of her inspiration came from the profound stories behind everyday objects.
I was working with a friend, and he was like, oh, that blanket reminds me of my grandmother, and he kind of started going into story, and I quickly realized that blankets are markers for memory and story, and in a way we're received in blankets, and we depart this world in a blanket.
A Storywork runs through early December at PSU's Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art. Your time now is 6:09. Head over to Chris McGinnis for a look at weather. Is the sun coming up yet?
About 45 minutes or so away from sunrise, but we do have a really pretty silhouette of Mount Hood off in the distance. This from our newest sky camera along the waterfront in Vancouver, courtesy of the Springs at the waterfront, and that's really pretty, isn't it? Also, we've got, of course, the landing lights there, not the landing lights, but the runway out at PDX and some of the downtown buildings there as well. All right, 53 degrees, last check in the Couve. We'll switch gears and give you the look from downtown Portland. You can see the waning crescent moon there, and Venus also rising in the eastern sky this morning, 56, last check at PDX. We are generally clear over the northern Willamette Valley. There are some clouds down to the south, so we'll call it partly cloudy down towards Lake Eugene and over towards Bend. But the beach this morning Waking up to some morning clouds, you will become mostly sunny. Astoria gets to about 69 this afternoon. Columbia River Gorge, sunny and warm, maybe even a little warmer than yesterday. The Dow should get into the lower 90s, I think, this afternoon. And up and down the I-5 corridor, Vancouver yesterday got to 69. Today you get to 83. Salem yesterday was in the upper 70s. Today you get to 83. So take whatever you got yesterday and probably tack on a good 2 to 5 degrees. And I think that's what we're looking at for this afternoon as we go mostly sunny. By lunchtime, we're up to near 70 degrees or so. And I've got Portland topping out at 83 later this afternoon. Tomorrow, brief morning clouds. Otherwise, a really good looking Saturday with a high of 81. And then we're tracking that overnight rain chance. Again, this comes in very late Saturday night. So more likely in the wee hours of Sunday morning. I think we get wet here up and down the I-5 corridor. That rain will be in and out pretty quickly. And then we'll be left with what should be a pretty decent Sunday afternoon. I'll walk you through the timing of that rain, show you how much we expect coming up with future casts in just a few minutes. Ladies?